afternoon. Yes, it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. This cost-rationalized poultry production, this is something a bit really difficult to say something about the concept by an individual. Because this concept which will be presented here, that this concept is, to be honest, is based on certain thoughts, certain ideas, influenced by many people I interact with. And therefore this concept may be liked by somebody and may not be liked by everybody. Nevertheless, if it is not liked by many people, I will be happy because that will create some sort of argument. And if a subject matter becomes a topic of argument, then it becomes popular. So to be popular, you need to be trolled nowadays. This is a current trend that you should get a good number of trolls in the social media. And if you get trolled, that means you will get popularity. So let me see how I can present this topic, and if at all you like this subject at all. Now, before I move into the topic, first of all, I should refer back to the presentation I made last year in the same event, the NOVACON, where I just emphatically said that we need to believe something in a fact that the poultry producers, each and every poultry entrepreneur, those who are involved in this subject, they are not producing a chicken, they are not producing an egg, but what they are producing, they are actually producing the food for the human beings, the food for our future generation, the food for our children, and food for ourselves. So if we believe in this concept, in that case, we should be able to understand that what exactly we are doing to keep ourselves alive. This is very interesting and this is very important, to be honest, because if we think about something which we were involved in the last during the last couple of decades, especially when the poultry production, the scientific poultry production has come into existence in India, then we have to accept the fact that there is a paradigm shift in the overall production practices. There is no doubt in it that the shift that we are experiencing, that shift is tremendous. And if I say that, well, this is not really at par with the space, at par with the speed or the style that many of the countries in the Western world, or even in other countries like China or Indonesia or Thailand is happening, but still the change is discernible. The change we can experience, we can see those changes. And these changes are clearly indicating that the majority of the focus that we are now on is on the food safety. Fantastic. Anyway, so I think there is no problem that the major focus is on the food safety, and if it is in the major focus is on the food safety, and what should I say, that animal welfare, in that case, we have to accept the fact that the producers, must be very much cautious, must be extremely, what should I say, the exact term should be, that extremely aware of the fact that what we are doing is not a very silly affair, rather it's an extremely important thing that we are involved in. Now, if I discuss a little bit that what exactly we were used arguing the last 50 days, that generally we try to understand that, well, this is my chicken, this is what something I'm used to, and this is an instrument which will give me profit. Fantastic. So let me say that actually we are discussing something about this as well, as Dr. Haldar was discussing that what the chickens, what the laying hens can offer. So if I go back and if I put this in a summarized way, that what the chickens can offer to us. So in a very nutshell, meat of say 3 kilograms of meat in less than 40 days of time, with an FCR of 1.4 or so, and say 500 eggs in 100 weeks. So this is something commendable that that small creature can offer to us. The point is that how serious we are to extract this genetic potential, because this is a genetic potential which is in a position to offer us so much of things to its consumer. The thing is that how much we are serious to extract this genetic potential from the chickens. Now there are certain input factors. I must say that there are certain input factors. These input factors, if we consider, these input factors include this diet, the husbandry practices, health and hygiene, the environment, and all the cumulative effects are these, the output. The outputs are the performance, the products. So those entrepreneurs who are more interested in the performance, so they are also dependent on the same input factors, and similarly the entrepreneurs who are pure integrators, those who are depending or those who are selling the products in the market, they are also having the same input factors. Now these are these input factors actually which are responsible to make our poultry business either profitable or a loss-making venture. The rationalization. So if we think about the rationalization, so if we move to some extent from the cost minimization, and if we don't go to the level of the cost maximization, so something in between is what we can term is the cost rationalization. The rationalization is an approach which is based on certain informed decisions to augment the operational efficiency. So that means we need to have some informed decision. So there will be a lot of role to play for the information to reach this rationalization approach. Now, since we still believe that in our poultry operation or any livestock business, the diet, the feed, it constitutes 70% or more than 70% of the input costs, or that means the whole of the business profitability depends upon the diet or the feed. Therefore, we should pay some attention on the feed factor. Although I must say that the feed nowadays is not at all the sole factor that actually governs the profitability of an operation. If I go back to the previous slide, it will show that there are many other factors for this husbandry practices, the health and hygiene, as well as the environment. So these three factors are extremely important to determine that how our poultry business will run, how the poultry business will make profit. Take the example of this prosperity and environment. So we were talking about something that the conversion of the conventional houses to the environmentally controlled houses. Why we are thinking about this? So we are thinking about this because the main thing here, what we should know, we should understand, enormous stress the birds are experiencing when they are placed in an open house. In an open house where the temperatures are extremely high, the humidity is extremely high, where people are literally, then how can we expect that the chicken covered with the feathers can get heat and performance but the genetic potential? It is not possible. It is absurd to think about this. And therefore it is very important to understand that why people are thinking about shifting from an open house to an environmentally controlled house. You can take the example of Pakistan. Pakistan is not our friendly country, I understand fully, but we can learn something from Pakistan. If you go and learn something that how they produce the poultry over there, you will be astonished to know that they are producing feed out of many rubbish things. The energy density, the amino acid density of most of the poultry producers in Pakistan, at least I am talking about say 3-4 years, the information of 3-4 years back, it's extremely diluted. But what they are doing, they are simply converting their conventional open houses to closed housing system. The environmental condition in Pakistan is extremely rough and tough. I'm taking the name of Pakistan, so don't misunderstand me anyway. But the point is that by doing this, they are simply converting a low density feed to a moderately producing tool. That means with the low density feed, they are in a position to produce a good amount of chicken meat simply by shifting from the conventional open housing system to the closed housing system. So this is something called the innovation. This is something called that line of thinking, which actually rationalizes the total cost of production. On the contrary, if we think about, well, I am not going to shift into the conventional, I mean to say that the closed housing system, I'll stick to the conventional open housing system, and I'll depend upon the nutrition only. So I ask my formulator, I ask my nutritionist to go for high density feed. I'm putting those high input cost, and at the same time I'm losing money just because of the fact that whatever I'm putting inside, that is wasted, getting wasted just because of the extreme of the environmental stress the birds are experiencing out of this open housing system. So this is an approach, a shift in the approach that actually brings about the rationalization. It is not cost optimization, it is not cost maximization, but it is simply taking some informed decision about what we should do and what we should not do. And based upon this informed decision, we can convert some losses into some profits. So nowadays, it is quite easy to take those informed decisions. It is not really very difficult. I know that there are a couple of subjects, a couple of discussions to be presented here in this forum. One is definitely this application of the artificial intelligence, and another one, Batra Sahib is going to talk to you about the data science. The data science is extremely important. Extremely important. We should know that how to capture the data, how to utilize that data, and how to interpret the data. Because unless we know a good amount of what is happening inside my farm, it will not be possible to maximize the profit. Or I should say that it will not be possible to rationalize my cost of operation unless I know what is exactly happening inside my farm. And that data, that information comes through the data. So knowing the data, interpreting the data is extremely important, and I'm sure that Batra Sahib is going to give you a very good insight on this particular topic because he is a master of data. Now, talking to nutrition, well, I know a bit more about nutrition since I deal with nutrition since the last 25, 26 years. I must say that my experience says that there are certain gray areas in the field of nutrition, the nutrient requirements. I'm just giving an example with the help of the broilers, because if I go to discuss about the layers and the breeders, then it will take the whole day. The thing is that this is an example that how the nutrient requirements vary. The nutrient requirements for the two breeds I mentioned here, one is for the Ross, another one is for the Cobb 500, and two time periods. The time periods are for the Cobb it is 2018 and then 2022, and for the Ross it was 2014 and 2022. Now here I should be honest enough. I should tell you very frankly that I used to have very good conversation with a couple of stalwarts, international stalwarts in this poultry industry. One is late Professor John Breck from University of New Carolina, and another is Dr. David Creswell. He is from Australia, New South Wales. I used to ask them a question that, do you think that a chicken needs a different formulation or different requirement to survive? Both of them answered, very strongly, no. A chicken is a chicken. A chicken is a chicken. So if we accept this fact that a chicken is a chicken, so there should be some basic minimum requirements around which we can maneuver. In that case, probably the approach of rationalizing the cost of operation through feed formulation will be a bit easier. If we go about these charts, you will see that there are certain changes in the energy density of the diet. There are certain changes in the amino acid density of the diet. So why this is so? Why this is so? Does this mean that the chickens 10 years ago did not require this much of energy or did not require this much of amino acid? They did. But the things were probably not known to us. The things are now becoming conspicuous to us with the help of the continuous process of data generation. The breed has evolved a lot. The breed has evolved a lot, and as a result, what we now have with us is something, a super producer. If you keep them in a very well managed condition, in that case a broiler chicken in 40 days can yield about 3.5 kilograms of meat or 3.5 kilograms of body weight with FCR of 1.5 or so, which is amazing, which we could not think about even 5 years ago. So how this has happened, this is just because of this genetic potential, the development of the genetics of the birds, and at the same time, these new standards are simply commensurating with what the genetic potentials are saying. But the thing is that these standards are not something final. There are again some rooms available around which we can play. Take the example of, take this example. This is something, again, it will be a bit theoretical. It will not be what should I say, that means, anyway, let it be too technical, a bit technical. Take this, have a look at these graphs. The blue lines, the blue birds are indicating the body weight, and the green bars are indicating the feed conversion ratio. The feed conversion ratio is placed in the other axis, while the body weight is placed at this left vertical axis. This shows that if the energy and the amino acid density, or in other words, the nutrient density as a whole increases, in that case it is possible to improve the body weight as well as the feed conversion ratio. Earlier, what our idea was? Our idea was that the birds eat to meet their specific nutrient requirements. That means if the lysine, the amino acid, it is considered to be as a first limiting amino acid, then the birds will eat to meet the lysine requirement only, and as soon as the lysine requirement gets filled up, okay, they will stop eating. The same thing goes with the energy. But probably this has changed, the concept has changed, and it is quite possible that the birds are eating to meet their physical capacity. The physical capacity means the stomach is a bladder-like substance, and if we can go for putting in a lot of things so long as the bladder doesn't rupture. This is something like this. If we talk in a very simplified way, this is something like this. So the birds eat to meet their physical capacity. So I was talking about the physical capacity, and it is possible probably to improve the performance if the nutrient density of the diet can be increased, and so long the birds can eat. Definitely, if the birds can eat up to their physical capacity, then by increasing the nutrient density, probably we can improve the performance. Now, this is another very interesting point. The interesting point is that this is something, I should say that a good number of experiments conducted where the broiler chickens, again I'm talking with the broiler chickens because it is very easy to get data with broiler chickens and to present the data with broiler chickens instead of going for other strains, other types of birds. Here actually what I want to show is that the birds were fed with three types of energy densities. One is meeting the 100% of the requirement, another one is at 92.5% of the requirements, and the third one is the 85% of the requirements. The birds were ROS 308. The experiment was conducted in Thailand. The experiments were conducted in Thailand, and at the same time, under each energy density, three types of balanced protein in the sense that the ideal proteins, I mean the digestible amino acids were maintained according to its standard. So again, it was 80% of the balanced protein requirement, then 100% and 120%. The objective was to show that if the energy density varies, then with the variation in the balanced protein or the amino acid density, how the performance of the birds will vary. Here you can see very clearly that if we use 92.5% of the apparent metabolizable energy requirement of the birds, in terms of ROS requirement, it is almost 200 kilocalories less than with balanced protein 100 or 120, it is possible to have almost a similar type of feed conversion ratio. It is quite interesting that if we reduce the density of energy as well as protein in the diet or balanced protein in the diet to 80 and 85%, then we are going to get better feed conversion ratio. So still, those who are still interested in feed conversion ratio or keeping the FCR as the only parameter to judge the performance of their business, then they can go for this approach which is nothing but a cost minimization approach. But for them, it will be a cost rationalized approach, because for them, those entrepreneurs who are considering the feed conversion ratio as their own index for judging the business profitability, this approach suits them very well. So they can go for a very low density diet with low protein, with low energy, and still they are going to get something very good result, a very good feed conversion ratio. So forget about the body weight, forget about the meat yield, only think about the feed conversion ratio and you are going to get very good performance. But for them, those who are concerned about the total yield of body weight, probably they can take the second or the third approach, where by feeding some low energy diet, it is still possible to have or garner the same FCR with better body weight. Now think about the cost minimization. One of the aspects of the cost minimization is definitely the reducing the protein level, because we always think about reducing the protein level. One of the impacts I was just discussing with my teacher, Professor Vishwas, about the environmental impacts. The environmental impact is something which is going to hit the industry very soon. Very soon means we should be prepared, the industry should be prepared in West Bengal as well, that the environmental impact is going to hit the industry unless and until we become aware from today itself. Now, one of the approaches which is being adopted throughout the globe is to reduce the input of nitrogen. This is quite important, because if nitrogen input can be reduced, in that case it is possible to reduce the excretion of nitrogen as well into the environment, and as a result, the environmental pollution becomes controlled to a great extent. Now, while doing so, most of the approaches say that, well, you reduce the crude protein. You reduce the crude protein, a lot of research is going on where the crude protein content has been reduced in a broader diet to 16% or 17% or maybe 15% with the help of certain crystalline amino acids. This is a very scientific and this is a fantastic approach, I must say. But at the same time, we should not forget about the exact amino acid requirement of the birds. The birds need the essential amino acids for sure, but at the same time, they need the non-essential amino acids too. The non-essential amino acids, actually, if we consider that this is a pool of photosynthesis where the protein will be synthesized, we have all the essential and non-essential amino acids should be present at the correct proportions. I am checking sometimes that whether it is there or not. I am looking back and checking that whether this is there or not. So, as pool of the photosynthesis, the essential as well as the non-essential amino acids must be present at the right proportion. And if the non-essential amino acids are not there in the right proportion, in that case, where will be synthesized? They will be synthesized with essential ones. So that will make the essential amino acids deficient. That will make the essential amino acid deficient. So if that happens, in that case, we cannot expect by simply reducing the protein content of the diet, we can have a very rationalized feeding program. No, it is not possible. Because we must ensure that there should be the minimum supply of non-essential amino acids. And if that is not being ensured, then be prepared for having some compromised performances. One of the approaches, or one of the points that one should consider here is that the exact requirement of the birds. Since I'm talking about the feeding programs here, so I am just emphasizing on this point that this is one of the aspects that one must understand, that what the birds actually need. The birds actually need, the requirement actually varies on a daily basis. It is not that, yes, this is 1 to 14 in the starter phase, then 15 to 20 in the grower phase, and the requirement will be in the monster. No, this is not the case. The requirements actually vary every day. Every day, the amino acid requirements will come down, the rest requirements will go up, and since this is a daily happening, therefore, if we stick to simple diet for a longer period of time, then we are losing the performance. So a rationalized approach should be to change the diet every day, but it is not rationalized. An ideal approach should be to change the diet every day, but this is not possible. But if we go for fragmenting the dietary regimen into pieces, say 3, 4, 5, it is definitely a better approach. You can have a look at this, that if you go for the 5 phases of diet, then you are going very close to the requirement, which is very important to garner the maximum benefit of the genetic potential. So knowing the requirement and at the same time providing the requirements as far as possible close to their actual need is the key to have the success. Here actually comes the importance of knowing the requirement every day by the animal. This is extremely something very much important. For example, just when hens we express the requirement in terms of grams per day or kilocalories per day. Chickens, the leg hen makes 17 calories of energy every day or 75 grams of lysine every day. But for broilers, we still express the requirement in terms of the percentages. But if I request to have a look at this particular graph, you will see that each and every amino acid, they are having specific functions. Take the example of lysine. This green line, the green line is actually total lysine requirement. The faint green line is actually indicating that how much quantity of lysine is needed for body protein synthesis. Then the black line and gray line, they actually indicate the requirement for lysine, for feather synthesis, as well as for the maintenance requirements. See the difference between methionine and cysteine. The pattern is completely different. The pattern is completely different in what sense? The sense is that the requirement for methionine and cysteine for maintenance is much more than lysine. So, what I want to say here is that if we just have a look at the age of the birds, as the birds become older, their requirement for maintenance is becoming more. It's quite natural. Those who are aware of the animal nutrition, they know that the size of the animal is actually determining the maintenance requirement. And if the maintenance requirement, if we do not have the idea about the maintenance requirement, then our diet is going to be skewed. This is extremely important. So this means that if anybody plans to have bigger chickens, if anybody plans to rear the chickens for more than 40 years of age, there must be something playing in his mind or her mind that I need to take the maintenance system requirements because the requirements for the maintenance is going to be more. So here comes the importance of understanding that how much the bird is taking, how much feed the bird is taking, what is the daily feed intake, and how much absolute quantity of nutrients I am supplying to the chicken. Unless this idea is very clear, it is really very difficult to go for rationalization. Now this is already I have discussed. The thing is that lower price always does not mean that it is good. In fact, the lower price can cost you more. One of the very basic example is the DDGs. Nowadays DDGs, everybody is going for DDGs. You can find here and there the DDGs producing factories. My boss, Dr. Hosni, is sitting here and he is a very good lover of DDGs nowadays. I appreciate, sir. But the thing is that at the same time, while we are going for the DDGs, then we should be very much aware of the quality of the DDGs. Because DDGs is going to be available to a great extent, but at what quality, what is the price, what is the quality. This chart it actually shows that it can be a very good quality DDGs to an extremely poor quality DDGs. This is a fantastic survey done by Agrivet. It clearly shows that how the byproducts from this ethanol industry is getting contaminated with mycotoxins. The main issue is not the mycotoxin. The main issue is the mycotoxin metabolites. Because, to be honest, to my knowledge, there are very few laboratories in India and in abroad which can really determine the mycotoxin metabolites. I may have one sample. I'm suspecting that this is having so much toxin, but I don't know the toxin at all. Why? There is a possibility that the aflatoxin may get metabolized. I check the chicken, when I check the blood for aflatoxin, I don't get the aflatoxin. So my diagnosis is only aflatoxin. The all-related problem. Do I know that how the aflatoxin will be metabolized in the body? And what are the metabolites? Can we detect those metabolites? No. There is no laboratory. This is indeed important. The industry, everything I'm putting on the industry, everybody anyway should think about having a laboratory which can really do this job for everybody. Unless we know our ingredient, unless we know that what's happening, what exactly we are giving to our future generation, then how can we produce food? We shall still be restricted in producing feed. Variation. This variation is actually the main thing which is creating problem. And unless we know that what are the factors causing the variations and how to deal with these variations, it is absolutely impossible to go for rationalization of the production. I talked about mycotoxin. I didn't talk about the pesticide. I didn't talk about the chemicals which are used to preserve the raw materials, which are used to preserve the ingredients. So if you go in that way, really it will be a saga which cannot be completed in a half an hour time. But anyway, what I want to emphasize upon is this variation has to be minimized. And unless we are in a position to minimize the variation in terms of the input, it is impossible to go for or think about rationalization. And to minimize the variation, we need to know the ingredients, we need to know the inputs, not only the ingredients. All the input factors should be assessed, all the input factors should be judged, graded, and then only it is possible to go for a rationalized approach in producing poultry. Now this is a small example, this is a very small example that how this variation is actually controlling or governing our profitability. Take the examples of two soybean mills, two suppliers, one is having 44% of protein, another one is 48% of protein. Have a look at this variation. This is the price, and say this is all the decisions are taken based upon that how much quantity of digestible lysine we are getting out of a single penny spent. What does it mean actually? Since we are talking about rationalization, so we should think something beyond the selection of the raw materials. How to select the raw materials? Still, we purchase soybean on the basis of the tooth protein. Do we at all think about that how much lysine is present there? If we know that how much lysine is present, we know the digestibility coefficient. Fantastic work done by a number of companies, including. Take the example of second slide, which actually is showing that how much the variation may cost you. If the variation is say it is more, in that case the coefficient of variation, if it is more, in that case then adjustment in the protein content is very much required. If at all we go for the protein content, the purchase decision, in that case definitely what we need to have some good numbers of samples analyzed, get the coefficient of variation, and then only we can take a decision based upon the correction of the protein content depending upon the coefficient of variation. So for all these things to do, actually what we need some good laboratory, good services, and some independent information, data. So the data generation as well as data interpretation is something which is very much important. This is a very fantastic, and I love this slide, a sensible feeding program. What does it actually mean? Actually, this is the middle legs are my legs actually. So we fed the chickens with some soybean containing burnt soybean actually. The soybean meal was burnt. The soybean meal, the reactive lysine content was very less. So the chickens went into deficiency of lysine. So when I entered the farm, the chickens simply came to me and started picking my legs. This is called the depraved appetite that we study, we read in the books, and I have seen this one. What does it mean? It means that only knowing the lysine content, because the lysine content was known to me, but I was not aware of what the reactive lysine content was. So if I could know the reactive glycine content was less, then perhaps I did not include that soybean meal into the feed formulation, and perhaps I could avoid this situation. So thank you, Kaushik, for giving me some extra time. So what exactly I mean to say is that we need to have some well-informed decision. I think it has again, oh no, it's okay. So we need to take some informed decision backed up by data, and only data is not really everything. You need to have the skill to analyze those data, interpret that data, and apply those data into our practical life. Then only it is possible to go for this rationalization of poultry production. Thank you very much.